In this episode of Non-Native Creative, I had an awesome time talking with Ayana Wyse. Originally from New York, Ayana is now based in Osaka, Japan, where she's heavily involved in community building activities in the international scene. In 2015, she founded Black Creatives Japan. Now she organizes events, online activities, and provides digital resources for a growing community of Black creatives inside and outside of Japan. She is the co-host of the Curly and Kansai podcast, a series which focuses on the experiences of Black women in Japan. She was also one of the organizers of the Black Lives Matter Peaceful March in Osaka in June of 2020. In addition to all of this, she does photography, DJs, and sometimes does narration and modeling work. In this fun talk, Ayana talked about what brought her to Japan, what motivated her to start community building activities, and what steps she thinks countries like Japan can take to provide better education about different races and cultures. Ayana has lots of cool projects to check out, so take a look at the links in the description to find her and her work online. Also, check out the Non-Native Creative Patreon for a transcript of this discussion and other bonus materials. Enjoy! On this week's episode of Non-Native Creative, I am super excited to welcome Ayana Wyse to the show. She is an Osaka-based creative person doing all kinds of community organization-related things. She DJs, she does events, she runs a community for Black creatives in Japan. I'm so excited to have her on the show this week. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you. I was just telling you a couple of minutes ago, I really hope to be able to do this discussion in person earlier this year, but unfortunately, due to our friend, the virus, we were not able to, I wasn't able to extend an invitation to you, but I'm very excited we can talk now. So I want to kick this discussion off with the same question that I ask every single person on this show, which is to please imagine yourself as if you were a superhero. And if there's a moment, if there's an experience or something that you saw or read or ate even, I don't know, if there's something that kicked off the road that led you to where you are today, if you have some kind of origin story like that, what is it and can you share it with us?
So this question, when I first read it, I was like, what is this kind of question? I was so confused. But after thinking about it, I was like, what kind of superpowers would I even have? But then I thought of a time when I was a kid. I used to watch a lot of TV. And I think, for most parents are like, oh, if you watch too much TV, your brain is going to get fried, or you're just not going to be doing anything productive. Yeah. And I felt like TV at that time, because I'm 33 right now. Yes. So I feel like at that time, television was very different, and there was a lot of creative different shows. And so I watched a lot of TV as a kid, and I just remember at some point where I fell asleep in front of the TV, and I remember it being a snowy kind of scenery, and also the busy snow too was happening. Yeah. So I think as a little kid I would sleepwalk at some point, but I'm not sure. All I know is that I fell asleep in front of the TV upstairs on the second floor of my house, and then I woke up at the bottom in the kitchen. So I thought I teleported.
Okay, I'm very into this story.
Right. So I still remember this very clear, memory of me going to sleep somewhere, waking up somewhere else at the same night, and just wondering how I got here. And I wanted to tell my parents what I did, and they didn't believe me. So it was just okay, well,
did you tell them that you teleported?
Yeah,
was that the word you used?
I didn't say that word. I was actually really, really young, but I told them what happened, and they just I don't know what happened.
Okay.
So I felt like the television is what prompted my superpowers. That was the origin.
Cool. So then what is how would you describe your current set of superpowers then? What are they?
Just I'm always everywhere. I'm
that
doing
is
a
helpful.
lot.
Okay,
Yes.
So the teleportation theme is kind of continuing then.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of is.
Awesome. I think you might be the first person to actually establish a superpower.
Right.
I've had a couple people tell me they've been bitten by a radioactive something or other, but I don't think anybody yet has said this is actually my superpower.
Yeah, no, it's I probably have a little bits here and there, but definitely teleportation was the first thing, and it had to be from that television that kind of sucked me in and then put me somewhere else.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
Cool. So you teleported yourself to Japan eventually.
That's basically what happened.
Basically. So you like fell asleep one day in your house and then you woke up
And
in
then here I
Osaka.
am in
Okay,
Osaka.
cool. Cool. So what made you think I would like to teleport to Osaka?
Well, there was a year when, yeah, I was in New York City, or Brooklyn. I was living after college, and I just hated what I was doing in the city. It
Mm-hmm.
was not what I went to school for, and New York City is so expensive. And they're like, "Oh, we want interns for all the things that you want to do," which is, I went to school for communications, and I wanted to do like either video editing or something with TV,
Okay.
and they just exploit the hell out of everybody in New York. So
Oh.
I was just like really disappointed with
Mm-hmm.
my path. So one of my friends, like, she went to Japan for like 6 months, told me her experience.
Mm-hmm.
Then one like New Year's, I made a resolution to learn a new language because my brother was also learning like a new language. He was learning Portuguese for capoeira. I was like, you know what? I need to really try again with Japanese because I tried in high school, didn't work. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna try again. I like Japanese pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then after like 6 months of learning and then seeing how I can get to Japan and like doing a whole interview process with one of the Eikaiwas, the English teaching schools.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? I can do this. They said Osaka was open. I looked up how Osaka was because I only knew about Tokyo and Chiba because I had a language exchange partner in Chiba.
Oh, okay.
And when I read about Osaka versus Tokyo, I was like, I think Osaka might be better for me anyway.
Right. Yeah, like Osaka, there's a rivalry. There's a Tokyo Osaka rivalry. Like
Friendly.
a friend for the most part, I think friendly for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Like Osaka is seen as like the cool city, like the laid back, chill place, and Tokyo is seen as kind of like the cold, uptight city, I think.
Yes, and then at times Osaka can be the Florida of Japan. There have been some wild
Oh.
headlines I've seen before. Other than
Oh,
that, it's a colorful, entertaining place at times.
cool. Super cool. Super cool. So, and then to talk about kind of what you're doing there now, like at the very beginning, I listed just a couple of the things very briefly, but what kinds of activities are you engaged in now in Osaka?
Well, now during Corona times,
Yeah.
I've just been working mainly on keeping up with BCJ, Black Creators Japan's online
Mm-hmm.
presence. We have a blog that, I mean, again, it's still kind of slowed down, but we have a blog, we have our Instagram, and we have our Facebook group and page. So
Mm-hmm.
just keeping up with that. And, you know, the group started in 2015 as just like a support group because there was other groups that Black foreigners are in Japan that wasn't really, it was just a bit like complaining. So I
Mm.
needed another space to just like showcase things. Maybe people can collaborate or just like get each other motivated to do things. Like on Wednesdays, I have like sometimes work in progress Wednesdays. So I say, hey, what are you working on? Let's try to help each other out and keep pushing.
Cool.
And that's how the group started.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, for now, it's just like keeping up with that. But before Corona was happening, we were doing actual events in Kansai and doing talent shows and music parties and trying to figure out other ways to bring the community together.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So has everything with the current world situation now, has some of that moved then just kind of digitally? Like I saw like you have a Facebook group and I checked out like the blog, the homepage that you have and the Instagram and like there's a lot of different events like that you've done. Sometimes they're like kind of maybe fundraising, I guess you could say events, or sometimes like creativity based events. Like is all of that now just happening online?
Well, the most recent event that's going to happen this month is actually not online. It's a rollout, and that means people who skate, skateboard, rollerblade, on bikes, whatever. If you have wheels, you can come out and just
Mm-hmm.
have fun with everybody who has wheels. And we're trying to do the social distancing too. So we're doing it like 3 teams in different groups. So there's
Mm-hmm.
not too many people in one spot. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also, yeah, for a cause. So we are accepting donations.
Cool, cool. That sounds fun, actually. That's a
Yeah.
really creative way to like, find a way to get together and enjoy the summer. Hopefully, the weather's good too over
Yeah,
there.
hopefully too. And it's like recently there's been a boom with like quads, like everyone buying like roller skates and learning
Really?
online. Yes. Yes. But
Oh,
mainly in the States. And I feel like me and my friends are trying to bring it here as well. And
cool.
yeah, so that's what we're doing.
I could kind of see that as being like one of those, because like Japan has like that whole niche thing, like whatever you're into, like everybody, like people will like really get into it. I feel like there would be a niche for that kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's already skateboarders, but Japan does not like skateboarders. I just wish that they had actual skate parks for people, so we didn't have to. Yeah, because there's no skate parks available. The skateboarders use like the benches or whatever in a building, and of course like the building managers don't like that, so they have like no skating here. So that makes sense, but like people are on just regular skates and not trying to like slide on sides and stuff. Like they should still have spaces available and still not be like no skating.
Yeah, that's true. Like there was a skate park in Tokyo up until maybe like last year or something like that. Like in the middle of an actual park, they had a really cool one. I used to be able to see it from like my old office building, but then they tore it down to make a new park before the Olympics, which now are maybe gonna have. I don't even know.
That's sad.
That's true, but I feel like skating just looks so much fun. Like I'm thinking about like there's this viral video that's been going around the internet the last like couple of days of this young woman just like dance skating
with the yellow outfit.
Yellow.
Yes,
and she just looks so cool.
And the music she has.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, she's so cool." I was like, I want to do that too, but I just know like she makes it look so easy.
So easy.
But I was like, I would fall on my ass immediately.
It was so funny. I had seen that video before it went viral because I follow her on Instagram. So it's just like everybody's sharing it with me because they see now that I'm skating. Like, Ayana, look. I'm like, I know you're like the 5th person who shared this.
That's good. But that's true. Like I remember seeing like a week or two ago, you posted some skating videos on your Instagram, and you were posting videos with your friends. And it cracked me up. You had like a song playing in the background that you were dancing to.
Is that what?
It cracked me up. It was so funny. It looks like a great time. So I hope that's a cool event then. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope
cool.
so too.
So like what's kind of, I mean, that's one of like the Black Creatives Japan related activities then, is that right?
Yes.
So what's kind of been the response to that? Like my understanding is that it's a group, yes, for like people who are currently living in Japan, but also for people who are interested in Japan or interested in coming to Japan. So what's kind of been the response to that group since you started it? It's been, what, 5 years, did you say now?
Yeah, a lot of people are very happy that this group or even the events happen, even though it's not like, it's not a big establishment. But when things happen, a lot of people come to me or tell me that like, Ayana, you're doing such a great thing here. Please keep going with it. Because there have been times where I'm like, I'm so tired and burnt out. Do people actually really care? It's just when I get those individual like comments, I'm just like, okay, I can keep doing this, but it might not be as active as I want it to be because everyone has, their lives. So it's like people who are helping me and volunteering, they're not always available. And I'm not sometimes also not available. So it's just like, it's a lot of work to organize events, especially the big ones that I like to do. My first big one was, it's called Showcase and Chill, and it's a talent show. So all of my events are available, for everybody to come. Everybody in the community can come. But Showcase and Chill, again, everybody can come, but the talent is Black creatives. And us organizing Black creatives. So it's just like, we wanted to show that we're not just one type of person that likes hip hop. Like you can of course like hip hop or dance or whatever, but it's just that we have other talents, and I feel like Japan doesn't see that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Do you hear that? I'm gonna close the window.
Just a tiny bit. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you're good to go. You're good to go.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you're good to go. It's like it was just a little blip. We're good to go. But thanks for being aware. Yeah. But that's super cool. Like I think that's so true, and like it's a topic I want to talk about later. Like this weird sort of, like, oh, you're from this culture or you're this race, so we understand you do these sorts of things. Like there's kind of this very like compartmentalized approach to like creativity and people from different countries and so on in Japan. But I hope we can talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
I wanted to just to kind of wrap up the talk about Black Creatives Japan. Is there kind of a vision that you have for how you hope to grow it in the future?
I do want like a physical space. At first I was going back and forth about it, but it would be nice to have like a community center for that is very like a safe space for like queer people as well. Not, it doesn't have to necessarily just be Black creatives. It's just like, this is a place that that we made, but is open to everybody. And like every time I look at community centers in Japan, it's just really like dingy looking and not that, like, it just doesn't seem inviting. So I wanted something that's a little bit cooler eventually. And just maybe also have the opportunity to maybe provide programs or find programs for people who are trying to come to Japan as well. Someone did ask me, she was like, do you know any like programs, this and that? I was like, maybe someday we'll be able to provide. That would be nice.
Oh, cool. So kind of like resources for people who are looking to come to Japan, like to live or to work or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be really, really cool. Like in general, like just the resources that are available, like nationwide for anybody who's interested in coming to Japan, like it's kind of hard to find details sometimes. It'll be like immigration says this thing, and okay, we have to get this paperwork, but then what about social insurance? Where do I go to find out about that? It's like there's just so much information that you need to know, and it's not super centralized, I feel like, in places. So that'd be nice. But this kind of relates, I feel like, to the next topic that I wanted to talk to you about. Your podcast, Curly and Kansai, is so the topics that you choose there, like they range from like, you know, everyday life experiences to like to jobs and to, you know, like, of course, living in Japan. Can you share a little bit, like, for people who don't know, what is Curly and Kansai? What's
Curly and Kansai started simply because like I was getting tired of doing like vlogs for YouTube, but I wanted to have my friend, my partner, Elise, to join me with these conversations, because we always talk about these things. It's like, why don't we just record it? Also, there's not a lot of podcasts with like Black women in Japan. So I was like, let's start this up, because there's something missing. Let's fill it up. And also with that start, more podcasts from Black creatives happen too in Japan. So I was happy about that. But basically, Curly and Kansai is two Black women living in Kansai area of Japan, not Tokyo. Kansai, Osaka. And this is how we are living our life here. We will share our experience, but we also talk about what's going on in Japan, and that's it. It's just a different perspective that a lot of people weren't seeing before.
Right. So I feel like the reason that I wanted to kind of segue into this is because that podcast, I feel like having listened to, you know, episodes here and there, it's like, that's a resource too. Like, it's not flagged as like, oh, this is a resource, you know, listen to this before you come to Japan, but it really is. Like,
so many people told me that they listened to my podcast or seen my YouTube and said, you've helped me like get information what to do before I move to Japan. I was like,
no doubt, because like, of course, your perspective and the ability to, one, talk about experiences somewhere other than Tokyo, and two, to talk about the experience of being, you know, a woman in an environment where it's like people maybe aren't, what should I say? People aren't so understanding, I guess,
at times
of like the differences and like, you know. So I felt like when I usually watch the videos, I'm like, just because, I don't know, I guess maybe like being a video person, like I tend to look at the videos more than the audio. But that's
right.
But like when I watch the videos of that, it's like you guys, the way that you guys talk about things is like, of course, it's very informal and very casual, but you get the impression that it's sort of like two friends like meeting for coffee is kind of the vibe. And then I mean, like, you have notes, like you prepare things that you want to talk about, but like you have so many like comments and so much also just like tiny little bonus information, like just all over the podcast, all over what you're talking about. So it's like, whether it's a little point about language or whether it's a point about you need to do this and this paperwork, like for example, to get the stimulus for the the coronavirus, like all these little bits of information are contained within your episodes. And even though it's kind of like, it's not, I don't feel like marketed really, like you don't market it as like, you know, this is a Japan resource or whatever. You kind of market it as like, this is our experience. It's like, there's so much information that's so useful, I'm sure, to so many people there. So I feel like that's such a great, like, that's such a great place for anybody, like, to get information about living in Japan, and, you know, about, you know, it's a different perspective, you know, and a really important different perspective too.
Thank you.
Do you have like some person in mind that you hope listens to that show?
Just anybody really, especially the Black women, because I don't know if you had noticed that we don't don't have a lot of men as guests, but it's not that I didn't want any at all. I just wanted to first showcase us, that we exist in Japan as well.
Sure.
Like, of course, Black people do exist in Japan, but also Black women are here. And I feel like a lot of times we're hidden. So I just wanted to showcase us first before I started adding more men into the show.
Sure. And through the process of doing the show, like, have you been able to connect with and meet more Black women across Japan?
Yeah, I have. And I have a few now close friends who said they watched Curling Kansai and then came to Japan, met me at the club, be like, "Are you Ayana? This and that. I used to watch your YouTube." And now we're friends. We're like best friends. There's like 2 or 3 girls like that.
Oh, that must be amazing. Wow. Congrats. Like, so you have like a mega effect on people for sure.
Yeah, no, I was really happy about that. I mean, that doesn't always work, because some people can approach me a little bit weird, but it's like, for the most part, I appreciate it. And I, don't need a lot of close friends. I've had enough, but I don't mind meeting new people. So I will say hi. I won't be an asshole or anything like that.
Makes sense. But that's awesome, because it's like when someone is able to like see someone that represents them and someone that like can talk about things from a perspective that they identify with, it's so powerful. So it just sounds like such an awesome. It sounds like it is such a great resource.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to hear that like this had that kind of effect. Then I want to kind of in continuing, I'm kind of trying to cover all of your various projects. We talked a little bit about event organizing and podcasting and stuff like that. And like, you've kind of got this community, like organizational role, like, you've talked about how you're kind of everywhere. And maybe like the latest part that we can teleport to is we're recording this July 5th of 2020. So this is kind of in the period where we've seen like the Black Lives Matter movement picking up a lot of international attention.
Yeah.
And you were one of the organizers for the Osaka peaceful march for the Black Lives Matter movement, which looked like it was really, really successful and really like it went well for sure. Like I was listening to your impressions of that on Curly and Kansai like a couple weeks ago, and you were talking about how you, as one of the organizers, you were really good at like taking care of all of the online stuff, like making the Facebook groups and organizing people there. And then when you get to it on the day, I was cracked up, because like the way you described it, you were like, "Oh yeah, I'm capable. I can do all these different things." But when it gets to the day of the event, I'm like, "Duh."
Yeah. Don't make me do it. No.
Yeah, but like, I mean, what kind of? I'm sure that you've answered this question so many times lately, like talking to people. But like, what was your impression? What were kind of your takeaways of doing that experience?
I was just really happy that there was a lot of willing people to volunteer, because I just now, since a month has basically passed, I know that some other cities have been having trouble getting volunteers in the very beginning. And it's like they have a longer time to, organize. We only had 5 days. So it's just like I was able to get people quick. And then people were like, "I'm ready for this. We can do this." And I'm just like, yes, because we had over 50 volunteers and they were so helpful.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like our organization team was like 10, but like we also had to ask for people to help us with like everything else, like first aid and crowd control and just other things.
Yeah.
And so that was very like, I don't know how to explain it, the feeling, but it felt good. As like I have this like Kansai, Osaka, like this is such a great community. Like foreigners all together. It wasn't just like only Black foreigners. It was like all of us and the Japanese community. So I was like,
awesome.
I love Kansai.
That's so great. Like to hear you had that amount of like community support, and in just 5 days you were able to put that all together. That's really, really amazing. And you had what, 2,000 people?
Yeah, about 2,000. That's what we were told. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super, super cool. Because like it's a bit the whole topic, kind of like the discussion is like a little bit different, or it's like it's kind of approached in a different way in Japan, because like the response, like when people started talking about the topic on Twitter, on social media or whatever, like a lot of like the response from I don't want to say all Japanese people or like whatever, but like
many,
a lot of their response is like, well, Japan is not multicultural, so we can't be racist. They're like, no, everything's fine here. And like, there's a lot of people going, no.
That's not how that works.
It's not. But like, that's gotten me thinking lately. I'm like how, like, you think of, the way that when someone, writes a book in like English, and then it comes to Japan, that you have to translate it and localize it, to make it something that's that meshes with the audience there. And I've been thinking, like, how do you even begin to like localize this kind of discussion? Like, how do you make the discussion something that makes sense in a context that is so different from the USA? Like, I don't have a good answer for this, but like, is there some, like, going forward within Japan, which has a very different context regarding racism and discrimination and stuff like that, is there something that like you kind of hope to see in terms of like education, or even in like community settings? Is there something that you think we should really have more of this in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, in general, Japan needs to change their education system because it's so old and it doesn't work. But in the meantime, I feel like now that there's more people trying to translate a lot of the history and getting more resources in Japanese for Japanese people, they have no excuse not to learn. Because at first we're like, especially on Twitter, I don't know about other people, but on Twitter I see it's like Japanese people, like, we complain, like, Japanese people need to like read, and you're not in a bubble anymore, you have the internet. But it's like, but duh, a lot of the stuff that they don't know is not in Japanese.
Right.
So it's like, finally, I think we finally like realized, maybe we need to just translate some of these things so they can understand it.
Okay.
And I've seen some like light bulbs like just ding for some people online, Japanese people online. They're like, oh, you know what? I did not know these things happen. And then they're like, Black Lives Matter. So it's just like, it's a struggle. It's gonna take some time, but as long as the stuff is out there, and then we have these marches, we have these teams around the cities who are like, we get emails sometimes from press or from schools saying that they want us to speak for them. Like, that's a start. So I would like to see more of that happening, and then maybe like actual change, reform in their education system.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be a part of that, but yeah.
That's a long-term discussion, like, for sure, and ongoing for everyone, like, not just within Japan, like everywhere, for sure. Yeah. But that's a really, like, the first point that you made there is super interesting, like, just the information availability in Japanese, so in a variety of different languages worldwide, then too, making sure that the information is clearly researched, one, and two, like, presented properly too. So that's a, I mean, all things considered, a fairly easy step to begin with. Like, if I'm a writer, somewhere, it's like, it's not hard to start reaching out to people and going, okay, well, how should I be presenting this to my audience? So that's really, really cool. So that's like a good first step forward then, for sure. I feel like I've started to see some of those, some publications, not all of them doing it so successfully, like NHK, for example, had a, I guess, well-intentioned but extremely poorly thought out kind of approach to one segment on its TV show. That's kind of beside the point. But like, I've started to see some Japanese publications are making more of an effort to, reach out to members of the Black community in Japan and try to understand it on like a deeper level and present information in Japanese.
I would say that because of Twitter and just like social media in general, a lot of things that may happen in like Japanese traditional media, like TV, there's backlash now, and they're getting it so often and quickly now that they're like slowly learning, hey, maybe we should ask somebody else before we post these things, because there's really no excuse at this point. They keep making these excuses, but it's like, you keep doing this. Like, I remember, I forget what year it was, but it was like a idol group who was trying to do a show in blackface, but they were saying it was like homage for, Black people. And I'm like, or like Black music. And we're like, no, you should not air this. So like, we had people on Twitter send things and like say, this is not right. Let's do a petition. Don't put this online. And then there was another dude, a comedian, who did like blackface too. He's trying to be like Eddie Murphy for like one of those New Year's shows, a famous comedian. I'm just like, y'all are doing this again. So we're going to complain about it on Twitter. There's backlash, send messages, don't do this right. They say sorry, but it's not genuine. And it's like, y'all are not learning. So I think now that, you know, BLM is up again and active for everybody internationally, it seems like Japan is like, all right, I guess we got to do something different, but it's still going slow, I feel.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too. Like the idea of dressing up or like painting your face is like an homage. That's a really, really kind of weird thing that happens where it's like because from there, when I say they, feels kind of weird here, but like the people who do that kind of thing, they'll go, oh, we appreciate this culture so much, and we want to show that we are dedicated or something like that. Like they make an effort they see it as making an effort to show their level of appreciation. And you're like, oh no.
Like we don't ever do that. Like as Black people, we never put on like different color skin to like say I love Madonna, so I'm gonna like put white skin on. Like I would never do that. How does that come into their brain? I don't know.
I don't know either. Like that, there's a weird kind of like hyper appreciation, or at least that's how they phrase it.
Like fetishism in a way, yeah.
It's, I'd never considered that. But okay. I'll think about that one.
What happens?
Interesting, but okay, but that is cool to hear that, like, you know, maybe these media companies are starting to kind of realize, all right, we need to kind of change the way that we approach these topics. So that's good. That's good. Okay, I want to kind of move then into the next part of your creative things. Like we're still not done. We're covering all the bases here. The next thing that I wanted to ask you about, like in addition to your digital media work and your community building work, you also do photography, specifically portrait photography. I've seen your pictures here and there. They're very, very cool. Like you do street photography. I've seen, and then I saw like you had a really cool series that you were doing where you were playing with like light and shadow in a studio a while back. What kind of made you interested in pursuing photography and doing that?
So I've always been interested in photography as a kid, and I was like the one that was like the camera holder in like family outings and vacations. But such an expensive hobby that I never really got into it growing up as much as I wanted to, because I really wanted like professional like cameras. So I kind of gave up on that dream. It was only what was it now? Is it 3 or 4 years ago? When did I start? Wow. Time flies.
Right?
It was probably like, 3.5 years ago or 4, where I was given an opportunity to do an event. So we do event photography, and they lent me a camera to borrow. It was a Canon. And actually they kind of like forgot that I had it. So I just had it for 3 months. They didn't ask for it back. So I was just like, I'm just going to practice to see if I really want to spend all my, like a lot of money on my own. So I did that. And it just like kind of trickled into like, you know what, I could do this as a career, or if it's not a career, it's going to be like a side hustle or a freelance kind of thing. I don't want it to be too much a business for me, because I might hate it, and most likely will hate it. So as long as I kept like improving and seeing my improvements and just enjoying it and like meeting new people, because it's another thing with me. I like one-on-ones or just small groups, because that's just, I think, a part of my personality. So I felt like doing portrait photography was it for me. I've tried food photography, I've tried street photography, and as much as I don't mind doing some street photography, I don't really enjoy it as much as I do portrait photography, because like, I can have that rapport with people.
Cool. I feel like that comes across too. Like every photo that I've seen posted or that like you've shared on Twitter, it's like the person in the picture looks so relaxed. Yes. So I always get that feeling from your photos. They look so like chilled out and relaxed and comfortable.
Love
it. Like, is that kind of the vibe that you're going for?
Usually, and it's really funny when I look at the roll from the beginning to the end. It's like nervous, slightly not as nervous. Okay, getting comfortable. All right, we're laughing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So that's the deal. So it's like you kind of in that case then, are you meeting some of these people for the first time when you photograph?
A lot of them, yes. But in the very beginning, it was just my friends. But when I was going to Tokyo, I was meeting a lot of new people. Like there's a couple shot that I did, and it wasn't even in Tokyo. It was so far. It was basically past Yokohama, somewhere in some park. But it was a really like nice day. The couple was really nice. And they seemed very nervous in the beginning too, because it's like awkward. Like you got to be lovey-dovey in front of a stranger.
Sure.
So it's just like, don't worry about it. It's first shoots. So like in the beginning, it's going to be a little awkward. We probably won't use those. But every time I'll be like, oh, this is a good shot. Oh, I love it. All right, keep doing that. And just like trying to make them feel comfortable. Then they get better shots.
Right. I mean, like that's a skill for sure. Like, you know, how to be, you know, the director, you know, like not just directing like the poses or, you know, not, oh, the light's good here, but also how do you establish like those human relationships that you need in order to make, you know,
directing
nice
poses.
result.
Directing poses is not my strong suit. And I don't know how a lot of times I was just getting people who knew how to pose. So that kind of like didn't help me. But when I did get people who didn't know how to pose, I was just like, all right, since I'm not really great at telling you how to pose, I'll just try to make you feel comfortable. And then like, oh, I see a really cool background. Let's just try some different funky things, just move around, and don't worry about it.
Yeah. Cool. That is awesome. I wanted to have a photo session with you, but
okay, we will have it maybe next year.
someday. Okay. Yeah. I feel if I talked about everything that the last thing then I guess you've just used the word funky, so I'll use that as a segue. DJing. You also DJ at your at the music events that you put out.
Yes.
What kind of music do you play? I've often wondered this.
So my DJ name is Afro Pump. And that means I play a lot of African music. So Afro beats, reggae, dancehall, and then of course other more popular music, hip hop, R&B. Like I just do a lot of that, and I play Afro house. But again, I could do more than just that, but that's like my main right there.
Got it. Okay. So with that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that kind of covers all of your activities, your creative and community activities. Did I forget anything?
You didn't necessarily, I don't think I tell people that much, but I do model and I do narration / voiceover work too.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know about that. Wow. That's cool. What kind of work have you done with those, with modeling and narration?
So with modeling, it's not that much. Because also Kansai, we don't get as much work as Tokyo, but the last gig I did was with a famous underwear company here. And I believe the ad is out now. I haven't seen it. It's supposed to be in July. So I don't really want to say too much just yet, but it was just like I had opportunities where I could, you know, model for big names brands. Another one that has come out already was Nintendo. I was a hand model for that. Cool.
Very nice.
And I've been in commercial work too for USJ, Harry Potter, like 2 years ago. Nice.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then for voiceover work, I've done like commercials for beer. Maybe, what is it? Black Label, what is that beer?
Oh, I remember that. You've shared a post. You shared that. I remember seeing that and being like, whoa, it's so cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I do a lot of things here and there. And if people are wondering, like, how do you do it? It's just like part-time work. That's just basically it. I'm everywhere.
Oh my gosh, that's so much. But like, it sounds like you stay very busy, and it does not sound boring at all. Like there's always something going on.
There's always something to do.
For sure. So then, this just kind of getting towards the end niche of our discussion. I want to kind of transition then. So we've kind of covered who you are and what you're doing. I want to kind of think about it from like the perspective of a person who's maybe thinking of coming to not even just Japan, but thinking of going abroad, thinking of doing something creative, or, you know, getting out and doing things in the community. If I'm a person like that, if I'm like a kid as well, like, and you have some kind of advice from me, like, is there something that you think I should do or not do if I want to go get outside my country or get outside my comfort zone and be a part of a community somewhere else?
Definitely just do a lot of research, and, watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts. It also depends on what country you're going to, because when I first came here, there wasn't that many videos, especially people that look like me living in Japan. It was very, very few. But either way, I still like watched whatever I watched and got a perspective on that. And then, like, I guess for me living here, like the first few years, I just observed a lot. So it's like still create things, but just make sure you know how to put that stuff out there respectfully, without like hindering any cultural, faux pas, or, like crossing any lines or boundaries. Because I feel like some people come here and they're like, I'm going to do this, and that. And they're like, don't realize that you can't do this as the same way you did it back in your home country. But still keep creating, doing the things that you can, but just also observe.
Right. Great. Then relating to that, like, what do you have kind of any thoughts about language? Like, a lot of people say, oh, the language barrier, especially in Japan, is really, really high. Or like, what's kind of been your experience in being a bilingual person in Japan?
It's funny that you call me bilingual, because I never think I am. But I do have some degree of fluency, so I can't say that I'm like completely beginner, but I've had struggled with the speaking part of Japanese studying language. But definitely learn the language, because it does help you get a different like way of thinking, perspective. You get your way sometimes when you know how to like argue or get some things in a different language. So like, let's say, for example, you wanted to film somewhere, but if you don't speak Japanese, like maybe the guard be like, you can't, no. But it's like, oh no, this is for this is that, and you say it in their language, you'd be like, oh, there, please wait, maybe it's okay. But for, I think, most Japanese people, they see someone that's foreigner, they don't know how to speak their language, so they're just saying, no, I don't want to deal with it. But if you speak Japanese, then it's like, okay, relax, this person might know the rules and the culture, so it'll be okay. Not every Japanese person's like that. Sometimes they're just like a block. They're like, I see foreign face, I don't care if you speak Japanese, you don't know the culture, no. But you get a better or higher chance of getting things your way if you know the language. So I feel like it's best to know the language wherever
Absolutely.
you are.
Oh yeah. This is not just in Japan, but
not just in Japan,
sure.
but like if you wanted to move somewhere else and there's a different language from your native language, it's best to learn it.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Okay. Then the next question I want to ask is about the joyful aspects of living and working in Japan. What do you find just wonderful, or what do you like about your experience here?
In Japan, for me, I do like just the scenery. So sometimes, like when I travel or go somewhere, like last week or so, I went to Mount Roko, and I've been here for 9 years and I had never been up Mount Roko. I was like, why? Why is it taking me so long? And it's just like, it's so pretty. So it's like, oh, I could take all these pretty pictures, and it's just like, this is why I like moved here, and not just be stuck in the gray city of Osaka all the time.
Right.
And just also, I felt like more freedom here. I feel freedom of expression, because like back home, like me dressing, just dressing in my own style, I felt very like self-conscious. But like here, I did in the very beginning, but now it's like, Japanese people don't know anything. Like they'd be like, oh, that's, she's a foreigner, that's how they dress. While it's just me, like, I just like dressing like this. I just like doing stuff like this. And y'all could just be like, that's just different. Well, I think in back home, it'd just be like, ew, you're weird,
Oh,
so then you feel like self-conscious. Like some people have a stronger skin, but for me in the beginning, I didn't. So it was just like finally like developing my own style and just feeling a little bit more free to express myself without any shame.
Absolutely.
Nice
Absolutely. For sure. Okay. And then we've kind of talked a little bit about the flip side of this question, which is, the challenges of living and working in Japan. Like you've already touched on language and on, when people are presented with a foreign face, some people kind of shut down. And but is there anything else that you've kind of found challenging about being here?
Yeah, I feel like all of my challenges are, I say on my curling kansai, but then I like forget. But a lot of times it could just still be language barriers, even when I do know a good amount of Japanese. And just a lot of misunderstanding too. I mean, that's mostly online, especially when I post things. that may be just very different.
Mhm.
If I write in Japanese more, I feel like I'll get more backlash from Japanese people, so I kind of don't.
I see.
I get scared of like Japan Twitter because sometimes they're just like cutthroat.
There's a group, like I won't make the discussion about it, but like there's a group on Twitter, on Japanese Twitter, that kind of a bit of a mob mentality when it comes to certain topics.
Sounds
It's
good.
scary, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving in a more positive direction, our last couple questions then. Do you have a next project, the next thing that's coming up? You talked about the skating event, which sounds really cool. Is there like a next maybe evolution for any of the projects that you're working on, or something that you're thinking of doing in the future?
Well, this year was supposed to be like a way bigger planned talent show, and I had to cancel it twice because of Corona. So I'm hoping for the next time we are able to do that, that it'll be a lot bigger, because like we just did a talent show and then just show art. But I think the next time I want to have like a fashion show and things like that. I just kind of want to change it up a little bit and then make it even bigger if I can.
Cool. That sounds awesome. So, and all the events that you're talking about, that you've talked about so far today, they're all based in Osaka. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I know people wanted me to expand in Tokyo, but I've thought about it over and over again. I said, nah, y'all have a lot of things. You don't need me to be there. You can do your own events and it'll be fine.
That's true. For sure. Okay. Then we're near the end of our conversation now. So I want to make sure everybody has a chance to find you online. You have many different web presences for your many different projects. So where can we find you, or where can we find your communities, the projects that you're working on? What's the best place for all of your info?
I do have like a link tree on my on my Instagram. So just go on Yana_YZ and you can go on my link tree and get even more links. But basically my personal handles are Yana_YZ across the board. There's BCJ, Black Creatives Japan, on Instagram and on Facebook. And then we have Curly and Kansai on Twitter and on Facebook page. And there's also Black Lives Matter Kansai that is on Instagram and on Facebook.
Okay, got it. I will grab all of those links and put them in the description for the YouTube, for this, and for the podcast description, everywhere where this talk goes out. So that is fantastic. When I was looking through, like trying to figure out just how many links you have, like related to your project, so it's like,
too many.
Gosh, it's amazing. You have so many things, but there's so much stuff to look at and so much cool stuff to participate in. So I hope that people will check that out for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. So like we're at the end then. Is there anything, do you have any comments or any thoughts that you just want to get out there? If not, all good.
I just tell people, keep creating. Don't worry about it. Don't think that you're not creative. Everyone is creative. And don't think it just means traditional art. Everybody has a way of creating, and don't worry about it. Just create.
Awesome. Excellent way to finish everything off. Thank you so much for your time today. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Non-Native Creative. If you liked this episode, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Feel free to leave comments about this episode in the comments section too. Please make sure to stop by the project Patreon at patreon.com/nonnativeCreative. Patrons can get access to Patreon-only discussions, bonus behind-the-scenes media, interview transcripts, and access to patron-only live streams. Your support will help make sure the series can continue to share exciting, interesting stories from creative people working across borders. Thanks again for watching. See you next week.